The March of Time. The new President of the United States will be charged with a large variety of responsibilities when he takes office in January. Among the greatest of these is the direction of the nation's atomic energy program, America's most important industry. This $10 billion enterprise is directly related to the continuing security of the United States. Yet so strict is the necessary censorship that the American public knows very little about it. Today, only 7 years after the birth of the atomic age, American fighting men in the Nevada desert are learning to coordinate their combat operations with the employment of the atomic bomb as a tactical weapon. Today, as the military uses of atomic power are developed and expanded, it is appropriate to take stock of the nation's atomic program. It all began in 1942 at the University of Chicago. Here in the school's squash courts, the first major experiments toward the harnessing of atomic power were conducted by Nobel Prize winner Dr. Enrico Fermi, Italian-born physicist, and a few eager associates. They succeeded in achieving the first sustained chain reaction of atomic particles. This model of the two-story high reactor indicates how cumbersome and thickly shielded the early atomic furnace was. 3 years later, the first atomic bomb was produced. In complete secrecy, America's top military and civilian experts planned the first test in New Mexico. Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, assisted by Dr. I. Robbie, directed the historic test.
The automatic controls got it now. Rob, this time the stakes are really high.
It's going to work all right, Robert, and I'm sure we'll never be sorry for it.
Well, in 40 seconds, we'll know.
On July 16, 1945, at Alamogordo, the atomic age was born.
Minus 20 seconds.
Doctors James Bryant Conant and Vannevar Bush were among the handful of spectators.
Minus 5 seconds. Now!
For Doctors Conant and Bush, who organized the development of the first bomb, this was a moment of supreme satisfaction. The plant at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, became the hub of the nation's atomic energy program in its formative stages. Here, where top secrecy still surrounds the work on the production of the basic fuel for the bomb, the March of Time was able to photograph a few technicians at work on related research. At Hanford, Washington, the second major atomic development plant concentrated on a different approach in the production of fuel for the bomb: the use of plutonium, a derivative of uranium. The Hanford plant, like the one at Oak Ridge, is still expanding production facilities. Today, the broader scope of the military development of atomic power is the chief concern of the Atomic Energy Commission and its chairman, Gordon Dean.
The atom today is still the principal instrument by which we may destroy, or at the very least severely reduce, the ability of an aggressor to make war. In addition, recent research progress has found for the atom a key place in the arsenal of the men whose duty it is, if the need arises, to go out to do battle with other men on the land and on the sea and in the air. The United States today occupies a position of great strength in the field of atomic weapons. But we need more strength, and we need more weapons to meet the demands which the military services are placing upon us. To this end, we have launched recently a new $3 billion expansion program designed to help us reach the goal of maximum atomic strength and to reach it as soon as possible.
In the eastern U.S., new atomic plants are today under construction. At Paducah, Kentucky, a $500 million uranium separation center is well underway. In Pike County, Ohio, a $1 billion plant is just being started. The village of Waverly, seat of Pike County, Ohio, will be directly affected by the construction of the new atomic center. A quiet farming area, Pike County is in the process of being completely transformed. 6,000 acres of rich Ohio farmland, like this thriving cornfield, are now a part of the new atomic plant site. From farms which have passed from generation to generation, 50 families are being moved to other areas. The evicted farmers are sad to leave their old homesteads, but most of them are philosophical about the necessity for it.
I'm Charles Noel. I'm the first man to be moved out of the AEC project. I've lived here for a good many years, and I'm not happy to leave this nice home. But it seems you can't stand in the way of progress.
The construction of a huge project like the new Pike County atomic plant completely changes the face of the countryside and the character of the community. The earth-moving equipment, which is today at work in Pike County, is affecting the first steps in the transformation of a peaceful farm and market area into what will be one of the most heavily concentrated industrial regions in the country. The first visual evidence of the new center is the concrete construction which will support a new railroad bridge. In Waverly itself, the feelings of the people about the change in the life of the village are expressed by the local paper, the Waverly Watchman, and by its linotype operator, Sidney Keatsley, who also functions as Waverly's mayor.
Waverly is a village of less than 1,700 people, but we fully expect it to be 10,000 in the next 4 or 5 years. At the present time, I'm employed as linotype operator at the Waverly Watchman. But the biggest job I have is being mayor of Waverly. With the advent of the construction workers at the atomic plant, Waverly, the villages, and the towns in this vicinity are going to be boom towns. However, we here in Waverly are making plans to take care of those who come to us in the way of churches, schools, policing, and so forth. Land values have advanced considerably here since the atomic plant shut down. We are looking forward with interest to what the future may hold for us, and we're a little bit excited.
In the wilds of northern Canada, near Lake Athabasca, the search for uranium follows the pattern of the great gold rush days. At newly named Uranium City in Saskatchewan, prospectors on the hunt for the strategically important metal at this new outpost are prepared for a long stay if necessary. Today's prospector is equipped with a Geiger counter, which enables him to locate the presence of the radioactive metal. The Geiger counter's reaction to the radiation of uranium is quick and sure. Once a promising area is located, the prospector stakes his claim by felling trees to mark its limits. Each man must clearly mark his name, license number, and staking time on one of the posts along the outer edge to make his claim valid. At government-operated stations in the area, the claims are recorded and mining rights granted to the prospectors. In New Brunswick, New Jersey, the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission rechecks uranium samples from many parts of the world. The Belgian Congo is still a major source of ore containing the vital metal. Today, the AEC is offering bonuses for the discovery of new rich uranium-bearing areas. Although uranium is one of the most plentiful elements in the Earth, it occurs only rarely in concentrated form. Unfortunately, the ore which is mined on the Colorado Plateau contains only scattered veins of carnotite, in which the uranium is embedded. At Los Alamos, New Mexico, and at other technical laboratories of the Atomic Energy Commission in various parts of the country, the main job is the reduction of the size of the atomic charge so that it can be used in a greater variety of weapons. In the course of cutting down the size of the first bulky atomic reactors, one of the most important considerations is the use of the type of metal which can resist the tremendous heat. In addition, the metal must be strong enough to withstand a considerable degree of radiation. On the development of these metals depends the successful performance of atomic engines. In these tests, the metal samples are prepared for the experiment in which they are subjected to a controlled atomic bombardment. This test in the atomic reactor determines with scientific exactness just how much radiation the metal can stand up under without disintegrating. The reaction of the metal under actual use is estimated on the basis of its performance in this short test. Equally important is the search for the best liquid to use for the cooling of atomic engines. This coolant, sometimes a liquid metal, will be circulated through the reactor to carry off the tremendous heat generated. In Washington, the atomic engine has been developed for use in a submarine by a Navy unit headed by Captain Hyman Rickover, director of the Navy's Nuclear Power Division, interviewed for the first time on television by the March of Time's Alan Dibble.
Captain, when did the Navy first become actively interested in the possibilities of an atomic submarine?
In 1946, Alan, in that year the Navy sent a number of engineering duty naval officers and civilian engineers to Oak Ridge to study atomic power.
What is the status of the project at the moment?
There are now 2 authorized projects for nuclear power in submarines, and there is also one under design for a large naval vessel such as an aircraft carrier.
I know that the submarine is still surrounded by considerable secrecy, but I wonder if there aren't some details that you could give us at the present time.
Yes, Alan, I have a model which shows some of these principles, and I'm going to show you some of these things right now.
Fine, sir.
Alan, an atomic power plant consists of 3 parts: a reactor, a heat exchanger, and a turbine. The reactor is really an atomic bomb which has been made small enough to fit into a submarine and which is so designed that it can generate heat at a controlled rate. In a bomb, the explosion is instantaneous and all the heat is used at one time. In a reactor, we can control the heat by means of these control rods. When the control rods move out, the reaction starts, and as they move out further, the rate of heat generation is increased. If we wish to stop the reaction, we move the control rods in, and finally, when they get down to the lowest position, the reaction stops, and there's no more heat generated.
How does the atomic engine use this tremendous power?
The heat from the reactor is removed by water. Here is a pump which forces water into the reactor. The water goes through the reactor, picks up the heat, sends it out through this pipe, and it goes into the heat exchanger where it gives up its heat. The water then goes back again into the reactor, picks up some more heat, comes out again, and again delivers its heat to the heat exchanger. The heat exchanger has many tubes in it. The water from the reactor goes through these tubes and goes back again. On the outside of these tubes, there is other water. This water is heated up by the water which originally came from the reactor. The second water is then changed to steam, and it goes through this pipe into a turbine. It drives the turbine, which in turn drives this propeller shaft, and finally drives the propeller. And this moves the submarine through the water.
Can you show us, Captain, how the atomic submarine actually operates?
Yes, I can, Alan. This is the throttle of the turbine. I'm going to open this throttle. Now, when I do that, you watch these control rods, and you will see them move out. And the more I open the throttle, the more the control rods move out.
All right, sir.
Watch it now, Alan. Watch them move. Now I'm going to stop it, Alan, and watch the control rods go in as I stop it.
All right. What about the dangers of radiation, Captain? How do you protect the crew from that?
Alan, only part of an atomic power plant is dangerous. We have a shield which absorbs all of the dangerous radiation. This box represents the shield. Everything under it is radioactive. Everything outside of it is safe, so that a man can walk over the top of it or around it and not be subject to any dangerous radiation.
At the Pentagon building in Arlington, Virginia, just across the Potomac River, the U.S. Army is concerned with the use of atomic power as an artillery charge. The potentialities of the Army's new atomic gun are described for the march of time by Major General Leslie Simon of Army Ordnance.
General, this atomic gun has created tremendous public interest, and I'd like to get a few facts, if I may. First of all, I wonder how does this compare with the railroad gun of World War I and later years?
Almost the only comparison is one in size. This gun is a shade of just over 11 inches, which is somewhat like our World War I railway artillery. But no doubt you remember that railway artillery was very heavy and cumbersome and was later replaced by mobile heavy artillery that was assigned to the Army and the Corps. This gun, in turn, will replace many of those guns, several of those guns that are now standard today. But by way of comparison, its range is much greater, of the order of 20 miles. Its weight is very much less. Maneuverability is a military characteristic that we must meet because our armies must be mobile in the field. This gun is built somewhat like the truck trailers you see on the highway, only instead of having a tractor just in front, it has one front and rear, something like the fire engine that you see swinging around the corner at high speed because it steers from both ends. There's a driver in each cab, one front and one rear, connected by telephone. So it has excellent maneuverability on the highway. However, that is not limited to the highway. This gun can do 30 miles an hour on the highway, 20, 25 miles cross country. Even coming in over a beachhead, it can make as good speed as any of the rest of the things that are being landed. Can move cross country and get into position in a matter of minutes, where our older artillery took hours. When it wants to move in a tight place, it can actually move not only forward and backward, but even sideways by turning the cabs at right angles to the gun carriage. Get into position. Well, you remember the old guns took maybe 4 to 6 hours. This one gets into position in minutes. can be slapped down where the commander wants it. The gun carriage itself is also a part of the transporter, and it's ready to fire and get the shot off, because the cranes load in the ammunition, load in the powder, and the gun can be in firing position and shooting in a matter of minutes.
In this early experimental test at Aberdeen, Maryland, the gun crew works with the same speed as in actual combat. At this test, a conventional shell of the same diameter as an atomic shell is used.
Now, the big payoff, of course, is how will the gun be used under actual battle conditions? What will be its tactical use?
It will be capable of shooting both conventional ammunition and the special atomic ammunition. It has ranges up to 20 miles, and thus the artillery commander is capable of bringing firepower on all targets within a very broad range in the quantity and kind that he desires. In fact, that is just what we intended in this weapon, was to make a weapon that would enable the Army commander to bring the required firepower when he wanted it and where he wanted it, irrespective of night or day, weather, or any other conditions that ordinarily hamper the commander on the battlefield.
Today, the B-36 is designated as the intercontinental carrier of the atomic bomb. But even a fighter plane like this F-84 Thunderjet is capable of carrying the newer and lighter atomic bombs now being produced. For missions within their range, the fighters are preferable as atom carriers, since they are so much faster and present a much more difficult target. These F-84s have a maximum speed of 600 miles per hour. Thunderjets can now be refueled in the air, thus increasing their range. In the crucial struggle for supremacy in this atomic age, the important consideration is not only the production of the bombs, but the facilities for delivering them on an enemy target with maximum speed. The new hydrogen bomb material plant on the Savannah River in South Carolina is today the most vital U.S. atomic center. Along the shore of this quiet stream, which separates South Carolina and Georgia, the scrub pine country of Aiken and Barnwell counties is pierced by a new superhighway, which leads to the most carefully guarded area in the United States. The casual traveler is warned that he will not be welcome. Of the 40,000 workers at the plant, many still live with their families in trailer camps nearby. The DuPont organization operates the $1.25 billion Savannah River plant for the government. A top security check has been made on every worker, even those not directly connected with production of H-bomb material. The urgent need for complete secrecy at Savannah River is highlighted by the loss of the nation's atomic secrets. This strong security guard in all parts of the area takes every possible precaution against the admission of any unauthorized person. Constant reminders are posted to guard against any laxness on the part of employees in maintaining strict secrecy about their work. These films, taken along the perimeter of the area by the march of time, are the first ever permitted to be made of the Savannah River project. The B-52, manufactured by Boeing, is the bomber best equipped to carry the H-bomb, since it is capable of transporting a 10,000-pound bomb a distance of 10,000 miles, or from the United States to Russia and return. The great advantage the B-52 holds as an H-bomb carrier over other bombers is its speed, 600 miles an hour, about 200 miles an hour faster than the B-36. New rockets, like the Army's Corporal E, are regarded by many military experts as the best answer to the problem of waging atomic warfare. With atomic warheads, guided missiles traveling at supersonic speed, 3,000 miles an hour, will bring still another dimension to global warfare. In this atomic age, the development of every effective weapon at our command is an urgent necessity if this nation is to survive. Time marches on. The March of Time brings you each week at this hour an authoritative report on the people, the problems, and the places which will make tomorrow's news and become a significant part of the history of our time. This is Westbrook van Voorhis, inviting you to join us again on this channel at the same hour next week, when the editors of the March of Time will present another chapter in the March of Time television series.